the intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey Star Trek Fleet Command fans, welcome back, and today we're going to take a look at one of the officers that rolled out last month, Miss Freeman, Miss Carol Freeman, who is, well, you got her if you got the $20 battle pass. No full sourcing for these officers yet, and this is one of the ones that everybody's been talking about, breaking the game in PvP. And there is some truth to that, and I think that a lot of the things that are coming out are pretty groundbreaking. But most of it's more to do with how big Scopely's making it. And what I mean by that is, well, how about I just show you a math formula? Y'all usually love math, right? Well, there you go, right up there. See that very long, hard to read string? Well, it's so long and hard to read because I wanted it to fit in one line. But that's the math of doing current damage calculation with criticals and standard damage and isolytic cascade, and also taking into account opponent's damage. You know, long days are gone now of easy mathematics. Yeah, it's gotten complicated. So that's why we're having these discussions. But let's talk about what Carol Freeman is, how she works, and go beyond that, talk about how good she can actually get for you in the game should you choose to be active in PvP. Now, something to point out real quickly, she does synergize with lower deck. She does not synergize with one of the strike team officers like Billups and Ransom Dude. Now, that means that we have a battleship strike team officer not currently listed. Like, this is lower decks. That means it's got to have a battleship strike team coming. So, clues for next month? Maybe. Guess we'll wait and see. But start off with the captain's ability here. Vocal Jazz. On combat start against players, Carol Freeman increases your shots by 100% without synergy, just base 100% increase, meaning you're getting double the shots. Bam! Right out the gate. Woo! Excitement. Oh, man. Oh, I feel strong. Wow. Well, this is going to actually help some of you miners out there. Been some funny screenshots passed around of Cavorts and Hydras and Bok Chors running Carol Freeman, Honor Guard Worf, and Lorca taking down attack ships. But that's the captain's ability, and then the officer ability is right here. On round start, if the enemy player has any state, Carol Freeman increases your Isolytic Cascade damage by 60% for 1 round. Isolytic Cascade multiplies your total damage, including Isolytic damage and all research and other bonuses. So that goes back to what I put up before. This is your current mathematical formula for figuring out damage in the game. Yeah, it's a bit much. But anyway, let's talk about the overall, like how well she scales. Here it is right here. Now you'll see synergy not really helping out Carol Freeman that much. 5% max on either side, so it'd go up to 110%. She's not designed to be synergized, at least from anything that we have so far. You know, you're not really going to go put Mariner and Beckett or Beckett Mariner being the same person. You're not going to go put Mariner and Badgie and stuff on there to make her better. But the below deck is where it gets really crazy. And this is what I talked about this month being kind of like that taste before the dealer asks you to buy the entire thing, because it starts off at 60%, which is already very, very strong. And you'll see that in a couple of screenshots and some logs that I cover here in a bit. 60% is where it starts and maxes out at 130. So here's the basic premise of how this works. And it's going to sound a little complicated, but we're 5 years into a game, so I guess things get complicated. If you have a tier 1 Freeman, you're going to beat everybody that doesn't have Freeman. Basically, it's not guaranteed, but you're generally going to win every PvP fight for somebody who doesn't have Freeman. But if you go up and attack higher, the better Freeman will win because of the power of Isolytic Cascade, how that damage calculation is working. Remember, it's the big thing up there. Look at that long string. I made it hard to read while taking up the whole screen on purpose. That's literally how it is. So with that in mind, you're going to run into a couple different things. So first thing you're going to ask me is there a counter to this? Like, can you beat the standard run you're seeing? Yeah, actually, if you have a low tier Freeman, you are able to lose. So that's a positive, I guess, kind of. And you're going to, that was a bad example. I wanted to show you, as you see, shout out to Adam and shout out to a lot of other folks who really helped with this. It was Adam and Mark from Chaos who did a lot of the logs that I'll use on my account. But a counter is something like this. Now, obviously in this particular one, it didn't end up working out in Adam's favor, but I am going to take several losses from Atios Ahura. Why is that important? Because we talked about that battle string, you know, that calculation string. Remember, Isolytic Cascade coming way down the road. Well, if you notice, Isolytic is going to take place, this cascade, this is after your total standard damage. So here's what's key. Total standard damage, that's with criticals and everything. So The reason we point this out is because you're making a multiplier on top of criticals already. So if you have a critical hit, these become significantly more powerful. So Cascade is ridiculously strong when you have criticals in place. So if you're not hitting criticals, you're not hitting that same level of oomph. So I'll give you a visual of that. You see here, I'm only hitting 1.1 million shots and 50,000 ISO because there's no critical. So this is just the Pylum and Freeman's more shots beating the Coronar into submission, which is also, I wanted to point this out because this is an example that, yeah, you can counter Carol Freeman, but she's still ridiculously strong at tier 1. This 1149 player, Adam is not a scrub. He puts out a good crew here, and I still end up winning. But let's look at a couple of more logs and give you some more examples. So you see how I didn't create a lot of damage there with criticals, right? Well, that was because I'll try to do a test with Sark. We'll look at that in a second. But that's because we were coming at it from the angle of going against those streams. But look at this D4, for example. When I'm hitting criticals, 2.9 million, and then look at the ISO, 2.2 million. So this is a interceptor just like the Pylum. And we talk about that crew that can counter. That crew I just showed you, the TOS Ahura, TOS Kirk crew, helps you negate some of the effectiveness of the overall crew, but Carol Freeman by herself is still ridiculously strong. And you see that here. Now that Cascade's able to activate because we have Hull Breach, remember, the whole point of that officer ability is it only activates when the opponent has a state. Well, I wasn't able to get that state in the first battle log that I just showed you, right? Because they had negated that. But I still had the power of her increasing shots by doubling them. So even without that, we're talking about this being a very, very strong officer in the realm of PvP. But let me give you a visual on some more damage multipliers, calculations, and et cetera, et cetera. So look at this one right here. So this, as I said, Mark was helping out as well as Adam. Well, on the left side, you have a level 49. On the right side, over there, you have level 60. Now, why am I showing this as an example? Well, we have a ton of logs in the Discord that you're more than welcome to check out. But I wanted to add, because one thing that kind of gets lost here is when we talk about it being game-changing, it is in a bad way not to the level of Strike Team. Let me explain what I mean by that and why. So when Strike Teams came out, Battleship Strike Team, Interceptor, Explorer, it lets you punch up quite a bit because of how the officers worked, right? But a lot of new research has come out that negates a lot of the power of what you're trying to build here. So for example, we're talking about this Freeman Honor Guard Worf Lorca combo being one of the best PvP crews in the game. But thanks to a lot of new research that's out, you see over me fighting a level 60 who does have a lot of that research, even though I was hitting a Voyager. They're a very low powered Voyager. Look at the damage my Pylum's creating. Do you notice anything kind of squirrely? Yeah, look how small those numbers are for critical hits compared to me fighting somebody of my tier. So not only have we moved the game in like, yes, we've now made it to where you're going to win PvP almost no matter what, but we did make it to where you can punch up. So you're locked in brackets. So if you have Carol Freeman, what you end up having are a lot of logs that you're doing really well against people in your area. That's the best way to put it, maybe. Here, let me show you some examples. So if you look on the right side of your screen right now, bam, here are 3 different logs I grabbed. Shout out to Sith on server 121. Shout out to my Discord. A few different people sending me logs. You see Valdor's punching up to Vorchaz, but that's only because these players are similar level, right? You see an Enterprise taking down a Vorchaz, but similar level. It's a level 60 player with an Enterprise. And then at the very top, I did want to show that you have a sarcophagus actually dealing a decent amount of damage to a 5-star ship during a territory battle. But again, we have more screenshots of this, and real quickly, keep that top one on note. If you want to know how to crew your sarcophagus for territory battles, this is a fantastic crew to put on there, making the sarcophagus a little bit more relevant. So shout out Carol Freeman for doing that in territory battles. Putting that on a Sark and on a node is greatly going to increase its effectiveness. So you have kind of a double-edged sword here. Yes, you are getting a much better PvP crew than what was released before, but at the same time, it's only making you drastically more powerful than the people near your own level. I think that's kind of like one of the negatives in this. So you can have these type of fights where you even go against the counters and still come out victorious, but it doesn't do enough to allow you to punch up because a lot of the researches that the game is implementing that are really limiting how effective you can be. So again, this is me going against a Voyager. I'm stronger than it in overall power. The Voyager literally only has Freeman on it, and that's it. And yet I still get swiggity swagged. because of all the research that's now come out. So you see, not even doing those 5 million hits and not even getting, you know, my Isolytic or Lorca not proccing. So I didn't even get my Isolytic until down here. And I'm still barely doing any damage because of all the research that the game has input into the 50. So we've got this weird imbalance. I know I kind of rabbit trail a little bit here more than I meant to. The key here is Carol Freeman is helping you lead the most effective PvP crew in the game right now in terms of general PvP crew. If you come to Rev and say, hey, what PvP crew should I run on the Valdor, Pylum, Katinga, Enterprise, Saladin, Envoy, Cavort, Enterprise D? This. Carol, Honor Guard Worf, Lorca. There are other combos that you can also run. But the drastic difference here between when Battleship Strike Team rolled out is you're not going to go take Carol and then go beat a level 60 when you're level 46. Because of all the research the game has input, that kind of negates some of the effectiveness here. So I'm really curious to see how y'all actually feel about Carol Freeman. As y'all can see by the logs that I'm sharing, drastic changes in how effective you can be. I mean, we're seeing crazy logs. I mean, I've only shared a few because I don't want to like scare anybody or anything, but I mean, look at this. I'm gonna put it back on the screen. Where's that button? Bam, look at these. An Enterprise taking down a Vorcha. I mean, that's ridiculous. But again, that's part of the bracket level because if the researchers are balanced, Carol Freeman goes nutso with the Isolytic Cascade. That's the real key. Remember, a big key to this that you have to implement if you're going to run her is making sure that there is a state. And if you want to guarantee a state, put assimilate below decks. That way, if Lorca doesn't proc one time, at least you put them in some form of state. Assimilate can help do that below decks. But all this to say, Carol Freeman is a ridiculously strong PvP officer. If you are out there saying, hey, Rev, I do want to try some type of counter. I don't have her, but I want to fight her. Well, there are a couple ways to do that. Again, go into some of these crews that we've seen before, like this one right here. You did see my Pylum beat it, but this is still going to be one of your most effective methods. Running TOS Ahura, the hope is to take away the crits. If you remove crit chance or crit damage, you will drastically reduce the power of this crew set as a whole. But what you're doing is you're weakening this and you're weakening this, but you still have to deal with these shots. So that is how Carol Freeman works. That's how she impacts the game. That's going over a little bit of the math and hopefully answering some of y'all's questions. But if you have more, as I tend to always do, ask me down in the comment section down below. It looks like this. Just go ahead and send your questions. We'll try to answer them and get through them. And if you would be so kind, ladies and gentlemen, like the video, thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. And this is Carol Freeman, an amazing PvP officer who's going to allow you to do a lot of really cool stuff. I actually have people who are going out with like their Voyagers running this crew, hitting out Novas in deep space to catch them OPC. So I guess there is some really cool stuff you can do with it depending on how you're trying to utilize it. But that's the basic crewing. Now, keep in mind that this is only one example. The key is the opponent has to have a state. So you could actually run her with your Joe, right? If you want to have her on like a Tribune and then multiply shots on shots on shots on shots. There's a lot of things that you can try with this, but the key is by herself, she is a ridiculously powered officer. We talk about Hugh being the best generic PvE officer in the game. Well, Carol Freeman is the best individual PvP officer in the game. Hope you enjoyed the video. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next one. And hey, if you like the shirt, our Live Long and Plunder shirt, pick one up on our merch store, revdeuce.com. Support the channel. Support your content creators. Bye. We're out of here. Yeah. Don't have to worry about incursions. We'll just keep on moving and doing more PvP stuff and elsewhere, like territory.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.